You may imagine that as regards exterior trials, you are quite resolved to endure them, provided God may caress you in the interior. But His Majesty knows best what is sufficient for us. He needs no advice as to what He should give us, since He may justly say to us, "You know not what you ask." The principal object of one who begins to make use of prayer, do not forget this, for it is important, should be to endeavour and resolve, and dispose oneself, with all possible diligence, to conform his will to that of God. Be assured, as I shall afterwards mention, that herein consists all that high perfection which we should attain in our spiritual progress. The more perfectly we practice this, the more shall we receive from our Lord, and the further shall we advance in this way. Think not that there are herein strange languages and unintelligible things, unheard of before, for in doing God's will consists all our good. But if we err in the beginning and desire that God would immediately do our will, and lead us according to our fancies, what firmness can this edifice have? Let us endeavour to do all we can, and beware of those poisonous animals, for often does our Lord allow evil thoughts to afflict us, and they do indeed afflict us, without our being able to drive them away. He leaves us in aridities, and sometimes He permits these beasts to bite us, that so we may afterwards learn how to avoid them, and He thus wishes to try whether we are sorry for having offended Him. Be not therefore discouraged, if sometimes you fall. Do not neglect to go forward, for from such falls God will draw good, just as he who sells treacle drinks poison first, to prove whether the treacle be good. When we do not perceive our misery in any other thing, but are sensible of the great harm we receive from being distracted and dissipated with regard to exterior things, the mere fact of our enduring this conflict might suffice to make us return to our recollection. Can there be a greater evil than not to live in our own house? What hope can we have to find rest in the houses of other people, if we do not enjoy it in our own? But it seems that those most intimate and sincere friends and kindred, I mean the powers of the soul, with whom we must always live, whether we will or no, make war upon us, as if sensible of the rebellion which our vices have raised against them. Peace, peace be with you, my sisters, as our Lord said, to which He frequently exhorted His apostles. But believe me, that if we neither have it, nor endeavour to find it in our own house, we shall not find it in another person's house. By the blood which Christ shed for us, let this war now cease. This I request of those who have not begun to enter into themselves, and also for those who have begun, viz., that they must not allow this war to force them to go back. Let them consider that a relapse is worse than a fall. They already see their ruin. Let them confide in God's mercy, and not in themselves, and they shall see how God will lead them on from one mansion to another, and place them in a country where these beasts cannot touch them nor attack them, but where they can subdue them all and laugh at them, and enjoy, even in this life, far greater blessings than we could wish. But as I said at the beginning, I have shown you elsewhere how you should act in these troubles which the devil raises here, and how the commencement of recollection is not to consist in strength of arms, but in sweetness. In order that you may persevere more faithfully, I will say no more here, except to declare my conviction that it is very beneficial to confer with persons of experience. You may, perhaps, think that it is a great loss to omit some things which are not necessary to be done, but if you do not entirely leave off prayer, our Lord will direct everything to our profit, though we may find no one to instruct us. There is, however, no remedy for this evil, but to resume it again, otherwise the soul will lose everything by little and little, and God grant she may understand it. Some of you may think that if it be so dangerous to go backwards, it were better never to have entered, but always to remain outside the castle. I have already told you in the beginning, and our Lord Himself has said so. He that loves the danger shall perish in it. The gate for entering this castle is prayer, as I have said. To think then we shall enter heaven without praying, and entering into ourselves by the knowledge of ourselves, and the consideration of our own misery, and what we owe to God, and by often imploring His mercy, is foolishness. Our Lord Himself has said, No one can come to the Father but by me. And somewhere else he says, He that seeth me seeth the Father also. Now, if we never look at him, nor consider how much we owe him, nor the death he suffered for us, I do not understand how we can know him, or perform works in his service. For what value can faith have without these, and what worth can these have if not united with the merits of Christ? Neither do I know who can excite us to love this Lord. May His Majesty be pleased to make us know how dearly we have cost Him, and that the servant is not greater than the master, and that we must work in order to enjoy His glory. And for this reason we must pray likewise, that so we may not fall into temptation. End of The Second Mansion, Chapter 1.